Welcome to the OrganizedPreneur podcast, the ultimate podcast for female entrepreneurs looking to supercharge their business. I'm Eldrima Harper, host of the OrganizedPreneur podcast. I'm also a business organizing strategist and coach, where I specialize in helping solopreneurs, freelance professionals, and service-based providers. This is to ignite, build, and transform your business dreams into reality. If you're feeling overwhelmed, struggling to manage clients and tasks, and worried about things slipping through the cracks, you're in the right place. With my signature framework, not only are you able to get your time back and get on track, but also turn your passion and hard work into a sustainable and profitable venture. Welcome to the OrganizedPreneur podcast, where we help female entrepreneurs to be more successful in their business. Today, I am on here live with my friend Heather Black, who actually helps people with their events. But we're going to get into that and so many other things in just a little bit. But I'm super excited. We met at my networking event and had just like an instant connection, because we were just talking about how we love meeting people, and when there's just this instant connection and chemistry, and we just want to get to know them a little bit better. And so that's how it was when she came to the networking event. And so I'm just super excited to have her on today. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Heather. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I loved your networking event. It's one of the best that I have done. I've been diving in and trying lots of different ones. And yours is one of the most well-organized ones that I have been on, as well as effective. So I appreciate that. I am doing quite well today. I am thrilled to be here and share some tips with you about organizing events with you and your listeners. And I'm happy to be here on Friday.
Well, yeah. Happy Friday. Yeah. And, thank you for saying that about our event, because I was going to ask you if you had some, interesting, not interesting, but, maybe a few tips on how we can make that better. But, if you think of something, fine. If not, because there's always room for improvement, right? There's always, ways we can tweak it, make it better, things like that. So Heather, for the sake of the listeners who's never engaged with you before, may not even know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you serve.
Absolutely. So I'm originally from South Carolina. I now live in the fabulous Sin City, Las Vegas. Probably event capital, it feels like sometimes. I have over 20 years of experience in events, primarily in the nonprofit world, doing education events for physicians and veterinarians, and decided a little over a year ago to branch out on my own, because I wanted to serve a smaller community of those, I call my clients titans of transformation. They are those coaches, those motivational speakers that are just out there empowering people and helping people live their very best version of themselves and their life. So I help them with their events so they impact more people and reach more people, because that's really what events are about, right? It's just impacting multiple people at one time, as opposed to in small group and one-on-one coaching sessions. When you can get into a room of 30, 50, 300 people, you can just impact more lives in such a positive way. So that is who I serve. If you have a powerful message that you want more people to hear, and you need some help organizing all of those details and keeping that train on the tracks, I'm your girl. I love to be organized with my events and just manage all those details. So you do not have to drown in details to level up your impact and your income. I am here to help you with that.
I love that. I love it. So when did you know that this was your path? Did you, like, at 9 years old think, okay, I want to organize events?
No, I didn't. It's funny how I came into the event industry. I have a degree in public relations. And first, straight out of college, I went straight into a communications department. and shared an office with the meeting planner. That was the first I had ever heard of meeting planner role and event planning role. And she left, and I kind of helped fill that gap, right? Just kind of help keep the train moving along the tracks. And I was like, oh, I think I kind of like this. But because that wasn't my background and wasn't my education, they hired somebody. Then I got married and moved, and I just kind of lucked into a job. That's what I did. A lot of the time was event planning. I did some other things for the organizations that I worked with. But as I started doing it, I was like, wow, this is like my jam. Like, I love this. It fits with the way my brain works, and you get to be organized, and you get to think ahead, because I'm always trying to be ahead of the game, right? Like, what's going to happen if this happens, and have a plan of action for everything that could potentially, happen at your event. And it just worked with my personality. I like to be in the background. I'm an introvert, so I love being in the background and dealing with all of the things and letting somebody else be that front-facing star of the show, so to speak. I'll be back there in the back, making sure that your microphone's working and that your slides are up and that you've got your walk-in music. But I don't want to be on the stage. Thank you. So it really was just one of those the universe just made it happen moments, and I got into it and I loved it. And I just got tired of working the 9 to 5 for somebody else. And I was like, I really can have more impact if I'm helping people on a sort of a smaller scale to some degree, but much more individualized work that I do. So
yeah. It's funny you said that about introverts. I'm an introvert as well. And although I've done, some speaking, engagements, I've done, used to lead worship. So I kind of, I don't know, just kind of push myself out of my comfort zone. But I'm still very comfortable, on the back end, very comfortable on the back end. But now the thing that I love about podcasting, like, we talked a little bit about earlier, is that I love doing audio podcasts, and because that's how I like to consume podcasts. But, and every now and then, I'll do video podcasting. And even if I'm a guest on someone's podcast and they're doing video. So I work with that. So, but I'm so not, I like to be behind the scene. I love tech kind of stuff and, all that stuff. So with events, so have you found that, well, let me back up. I want to ask you about how did the pandemic impact your work? How did that impact your work?
There were no events. It became, I was very fortunate. The job I had at the time kept everyone employed. And we just kind of pivoted. We had just had a very successful conference. Like, our conference was in February of 2020, huge. At the time, I was working on a 4-day, like 15,000 person conference. We had it in mid-February, and I remember I had to go and find hand sanitizer and wipes and all these things that we never even used, but it was just there, right? It was just in that initial conversation. I had a driver, and we kind of teased him about it. He was like, can I wear a mask? And I'm like, yeah, whatever, And fast forward a month later, and we're all wearing masks, right? And I was like, oh, I should have listened more to him and invested in some stock or something. But, we, at the time, we had our successful conference, but we also had a hands-on facility that we did events at here in Las Vegas every week. And all of that came to a stop. It all came to a grind. And we had to find new ways to communicate and educate the people that relied on us for their education. So we pivoted pretty quick into to the virtual world. And it was a whole new world of tech, right? Like a whole new world of how does this work? And I'm one of those people that's appreciative that the pandemic happened, because first of all, I realized that working the 50, 60-hour weeks that I was doing before was not the life I wanted to continue, which led me to moving forward, thinking about starting my own business and how that would look. but also it opened up a whole new world of people that you can meet. The amazing people that I have met on virtual networking events are people that I would probably never have had the opportunity to meet. So for me, from the event standpoint, it opens up so many more opportunities to reach so many more people. So I love doing virtual and hybrid events because it just grows your impact. You're no longer limited to the people who can travel to your event or who are local, right? You can now reach a global audience, and that to me is just an amazing thing. So I'm thankful for many reasons for the pandemic happening, because it opened up so many new avenues of reach and impact for people.
Yeah, yeah. I so agree with you on that. I mean, you know, of course we acknowledge, that there were some things that unfortunately,
Yes.
happened. But for me, I mean, I was just super excited. And it was really when my business partner and I, Dorothy, had actually began to launch our virtual networking event, because I that was one reason. There were several reasons. One reason was I didn't like the type of environment of in-person networking events. They schedule a one-on-one with you, and then they want to sell you something. So that was reason number two that we started out. And she was like, and I was talking to her, and I said, I'm really tired of going to those kind of events, and she was like, well, let's just start our own. I was like, okay. And so we, started it. It's been almost 4 years. But like you, it was a blessing, for my husband and I, in that, we were blessed that, we didn't have a lot of tragic, things that happened
Right.
as a result. But again, knowing and acknowledging that, others have, there was a lot of, horrible things that happened as a result,
Oh,
of it.
absolutely. And I would never want to minimize the
Yeah.
negative impact that COVID had, because obviously
Yeah.
jobs lost and people lost their homes and they lost their lives. And I would never want to minimize that. And from a global standpoint, it was an extremely difficult time.
Absolutely.
But for me personally, it was a turning point in my
Absolutely.
professional and my
Yeah.
personal life.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm thankful, because without it, I don't think that I would be where I am today, having this conversation, having my own business, and impacting the world in a very different way than I was before. Now I tell people, well, I'm a change maker, right? I change the world one client at a time.
Yeah.
So I'm just thankful for that, but I would never want to minimize the tragedies and the difficulties that other people face, because I was very, very blessed, and I understand that.
Yeah. 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 The same here. Same here. So so you started your business right after the pandemic, or were you kind of thinking about it before that happened?
I wasn't thinking about it before that happened, but the pandemic kind of made me start thinking about, um, I liked being at home. I liked working from home. That was my first opportunity to ever do that. I
Yeah.
liked I don't like office politics and the drama and the gossip that goes on in offices. It's just not my wheelhouse, my thing.
Right.
And so it made me start thinking, and I'm a very faithful, God-centered person. And, God started laying that on my heart to start my own business. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I don't think you mean me. Okay, but thanks for stopping by. And he just kept on, and there were just number of things that occurred over the course from 2021 into 2022. And was just like, finally, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was like, okay, you want me to do this? I hope you know what you're doing, because I don't think you do. And last summer, I
Funny.
decided to start working part-time,
Mhm.
and went part-time in my nonprofit that I was working at. Very fortunate that I had that flexibility and ability, and started digging in, because I don't know anything about running a business. Right, I can run your event all day long. That's not a problem. But running a business, I didn't have a clue.
Wow.
And so just started trying to learn and figure it out. And so officially launched my business last November. So I'm not quite a year old in the business entrepreneurial world. And then he and I got into another argument earlier this year about leaving my part-time job and full faith, dive in, do the business. And I was like, no, I need another client. You need to give me my next client before I'm going to do that. No, you need to quit your job and I'm going to give you another client. And I'm not even joking with you. I had something happen. I realized I needed to quit the job. I turned in my notice on March the 16th. On March the 17th, I met the person that's my next client.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's just really been a journey to get here. And when the pandemic happened, if you had said then, okay, 3 years from now, you're going to be running your own business, I would have laughed. Because that was not even in my realm of possibilities for my life.
Right. Wow. Wow. I love that. Oh my goodness. So that brings about a whole lot of other questions, but so how scary was that?
It was terrifying. I'm going to be real. It was, I'm very fortunate. My fiance is extremely supportive and financially, emotionally, all of those things.
Yeah.
But I'm a very independent woman and I do not want to rely on anyone to make sure my rent is paid, right? Like that's on me. And so it was terrifying to step out into that faith and say, okay, you're going to provide. And I left my job early part of April, and I have had to touch my savings a little bit. But honestly, God has been so good and has provided at every single turn. And like the clients are he told me in August to get prepared because this business is going to grow in a way that can only be accredited to him.
Wow.
And I was like, what does that look like? Just get ready. But could you give me some more details? No, just get ready. Because if I tell you, you'll be too scared to move forward. And I'm like, but I'm scared now. I'm scared now.
Yeah. I think that is worth repeating. Say that again.
Like if I tell you, you'll be too scared to move forward.
Yeah.
And so what is about to happen is going to only be, you can only say that it was done through me. Like it will be to my glory. It will be, I will prove the work that can be done if you have faith in me. And I'm not joking. Right now, it looks like I'm going to sign my next 3 clients by the end of October.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Knock on wood. Praise you, Jesus. If that's how it be. But I was going to a meeting this morning and I was like, you said it was going to explode and it is about to explode. And he was like, I wasn't joking. This is real. It's about to get real. Buckle up, Buttercup.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Right. Oh my goodness. I really hope that whoever's listening to this episode, that if they don't get anything else, they get that part, because so many times we want, give me the next step, Lord. Tell me what that is going to look like. Tell me what, that kind of thing. And God is like, I need you to make a step first. I need you to make a step of faith first. And faith is full of action, but it's an action word. But go ahead, because you want to say some more, and I can see that. Go ahead.
So when I was first thinking about my business and what it would look like, I had the name, but I wasn't, and what I was, kind of had an idea, but I wasn't sure yet, right? Like I was like, I don't think I want to do this. This is scary. I need that consistent income. I need to know that I can pay my bills. And there was an injured pigeon in the road. I'm not lying, a pigeon. And I said, oh my gosh, what do I do with this? Well, how do I help your pigeon? And he said, go get the pigeon out of the road. Well, okay, but what next? So the whole time, so I had to park my car and I had to walk back to where the pigeon was. And I was like, what do I do with the pigeon when I get it out? What do I do then? Just get the pigeon out of the road. And the whole way back, he and I are having this conversation. Mm-hmm. And this pigeon is now curled up in a ball in the road, right? Like terrified because cars are going past it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get the pigeon out of the road, but I have no idea what's going to happen after that because you're just not telling me. And I put my hands on that pigeon I am not exaggerating when I say he flew away. The minute I touched him, he flew away. And I was like, oh, okay. And God said, I told you, you just had to get the pigeon out of the road. You do not need to know all the steps. You just need to take the first one. And I said, oh, you mean like with my business? And he said, exactly like that. Now get out of the road, because I'm still standing in the road because I'm in such shock that this pigeon that in my mind was probably got a broken wing, and I'm going to have to take care of him, and he's going to be living in my bathtub for 6 months. Like, I don't even know what's about to happen.
Right.
And he flew away.
Wow.
Because you don't have to know all the steps. You just have to take the first one.
Yes. I mean, oh my goodness, this is so powerful, and it's going to be so encouraging for those who are, maybe they are in that place where they kind of got their foot, in the water, one foot in the water, one foot out, and they're asking the Lord, like, okay, well, what do I do now? Just on the fence kind of thing. And hopefully my prayer is that they will exercise the kind of faith that's needed so that they can take the leap. Right.
Absolutely.
I mean,
you got to get in the water, and you have it. But I'll tell you, it's terrifying. And there's still days that I wake up and I go, what if I don't get my next client? What if it, and God's like, I got you.
Yeah.
I got this.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. That girl, I am telling you, that is why I was like, what was, the connection. This was the connection. This was the connection. And this was the reason why I didn't know exactly why, I wanted you to be on my podcast, but this is why. This is why, because this is going to be so encouraging to others. Girl, I'm telling you. Okay. Let me get back to some questions, but I really want people to if they stop right here and just got that piece, it's worth the time. It's definitely worth the time. So you launched your business. It's a scary kind of thing, and now, I mean, you're like on track to really, things are about to explode, just like God, is promising you that if you just walk in faith, just believe in me. I got you. Right. So what are some things? So I want to pivot just a little bit, because you have a lot of experience in this space, even though you just launched your business. You have a lot of. So what are some things that you see, maybe some mistakes that people make when they, have events, when they, launch events or have an event or whatever? What are some things that you see people do? And it's like, I probably wouldn't have done that if I were you.
So I think there are a lot of things that when you've never done an event before, one of the things that you don't know is what you don't know, right? And so people, when you've been to an event, you think, this was so much fun, this was awesome, I can do this. Let me tell you about the amount of work that goes in behind the scenes. Okay. And a lot of people underestimate the details, and they don't think through the event. I don't want you to say, I want to have a women's conference for 50 women in March in, I don't know, Montana, right? Great. That's good. I want you to understand your why. What are people coming to this event for? What are they going to leave with? Why do I care about your event? Because if you don't understand the why of your event, you're not going to be able to communicate that, and you're not going to be able to market it, and you're not going to be able to reach people. But further to that is your why is going to dictate your budget. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So when you're trying to make those tough decisions, like, do I have the steak tartare or do I have the grilled chicken? You go back to your why.
Yeah.
If your why is because I want people to experience the fabulous food and the steaks in Montana, then that's going to dictate the higher end meal. If your why is because I want to empower women to live their very best life and to know who they are in God as women,
Yeah.
then you can have the grilled chicken.
Yeah.
You really have to sit down and identify your why for this
Yeah.
event, because
Yeah.
that's what's going to keep you motivated when you're sitting there trying to make the tough decisions about your menus and the tough decisions about your speakers and who you can and cannot have for your budget. So that's the thing I think people miss so often is they just want to have an event because, yeah, I can reach a lot of people and I can make some money. That's great.
Yeah.
But what are you communicating to these people?
Yeah.
Why are they coming to your event? What are they going to leave with? How is it going to impact their lives?
Yeah.
Please know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't start, planning their events based on the why.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So you so I know you help people, and you manage their events, and you like behind the scenes and everything. Are you coaching people as well in this area?
It's funny that you should ask that. One of the services I'm adding to my business now is a consulting package. I have a couple of different options because people do want to do it for themselves, or they might not have the money to pay somebody to come in and manage all the details.
Yeah.
But I want you to make the right decisions, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to be like, I don't know what this clause means in the contract, but it's probably fine if I sign it. No, it might
Yeah.
not be fine if you sign it. I want you to understand your contracts. I want you to understand how to go through the proper vendor selection. And so I'm offering consulting now in my business. And you can buy it an hour at a time, or I have packages where I can actually help you and review some things and give feedback.
Mhm.
And answer, have a follow-up call to answer additional questions as they come up. Because it's so important for events that you don't just plan it and be like, I'm just going to throw some tables in a room and have a speaker, blah, blah. I want you to think through not just your why, but think through what could happen. I want you to be prepared to manage those details, because I tell people, if you don't manage your event will manage you. If you haven't thought through some of the things that could happen and you're not prepared for those things, you're not going to have an enjoyable event. Your
Right.
people might not know anything, but you're not going to have an enjoyable event. And why shouldn't you enjoy it if it's your event? I mean, it's
That's
supposed to be
true.
fun.
That is true. I don't think people actually think. That's a very good point. I don't think people actually think about that. And there's nothing wrong with thinking about, the attendees and their experiences. Of course, you want to create an experience for everyone else, but what about you?
Right.
Because, like, if you don't, like you're saying, if you don't enjoy it, and if you don't have a good experience, good experience with it, then you may not want to do another one, right?
Right.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people enter the events industry and they don't have a good experience and they leave the event industry. And I think, what a tragedy, because it's just such an amazing space to be in. Um, the experience that you can create for other people. I love, seeing people over and over again at events and being like, oh yeah, I mean, blah blah blah. You help me with the, whatever. And it's just such a great way to build relationships and just have a positive impact. And so I hate when people have a bad experience working an event or attending an event and they're like, I don't want to ever have to do that again.
Yeah.
Because that's just, the event space is special. The people who work in events are
Yeah.
special. You have to have a certain kind of heart to be able
Yeah.
to do it,
Yeah.
because it's tough. It's a tough, there's a lot that goes into it. And that's the other thing, people underestimate the amount of effort that goes into managing a successful event.
Yeah. And paying attention to details is one of the things that I used to do when I was on staff at my church, that was one of the things that I was responsible for were, the events and the conferences and things like that. And oh my gosh, there's a lot of detail, that goes into it, right? So do you have a dream client? I was thinking about this when I first, is there a dream client that you would like to do an event for? Like, I would really like to do an event for that person.
I have a list of dream clients.
Okay.
Um, and but if I had to pick one person, it has to be Mel Robbins.
Got it. Okay. Is
Uh,
that right?
yeah, she is just, I love her and I love the message that she sends. I
Yeah.
love reading her posts, and she's just such a positive and encouraging person. All of her emails end with, if nobody's told you today, I love you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just such a positive thing. And I would like, you could just take me straight to heaven after that. I'd be good to go.
Have you ever reached out to her?
I haven't yet. I will
Okay.
one day.
Okay. Now,
I have.
and are you subscribed to her podcast?
I am subscribed to her
Okay.
podcast
Okay.
and her email, and I
Yeah.
follow her. I stalk her on all the social media. So,
Yeah. I'm subscribed to her podcast. Because I love her. I love how she articulates the message in terms of the content and her interviewing style and all of that, so I follow her podcast because I'm learning how to get better, at podcasting and interviewing and things like that. But yeah, okay, I was just wondering, if you had someone, because everybody has someone, that it's like I would love to, plan this person's event or plan, whatever that is, so yeah. So any plans to write a book, or since you're, launching your consulting and things like that, any plans for that?
I don't have any plans to write a book around event planning. I'm writing a historical fiction novel for someday. Um, but I am planning, hopefully next month, to have like my first workshop. And we're going to be talking about how to know your business is ready for events, because you need to make the right decisions of what kind of event you're going to have. Don't just start with a 7-day international retreat. Please don't do that. Um, so where are you? Where are you in your business, and how to make the right decisions to make sure when you get to the 7-day international retreat that you're successful at that.
Yeah.
So that's coming, hopefully mid-October, early November.
Gotcha. So the type of events that you like to do are primarily like, conferences and, things like that. We're not talking like wedding events or anything like that,
I
right?
have a strict rule about Zillas. I don't do any event where there could be a Zilla. So Bridezillas, Momzillas, Groomzillas, um, you know,
I love it.
bridal showers, baby showers. That's not my jam. But
I love it.
if you need to do a retreat, you want to hold a conference, you want to hold a virtual or a hybrid event, primarily focused on education, empowering and improving people's lives. I'm your girl.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So the thing, like you said, is to make sure that you understand your why, why you're doing it. That is like the most important thing when it comes to that. Have you seen what have you seen? Are there some other things that you've seen in the industry, like, that's like, maybe it's going, you see the industry going in the wrong direction, or, whatever, is there anything like other pointers, maybe some other pointers? That's what I want to ask, that you would give to
Um,
people.
yeah, sure. Let me pull all of the knowledge in
I
my head.
know, I know, I know, I know.
Woo,
I'm a processor, so it's like, give me a moment just to process
yeah,
that.
let me process that for a second. Um, I will say this. This was one of the things when I first started in the industry that I got hung up on. It was where I struggled the most, and that was food and beverage. Food and beverage is important to your event, but it is not the be all end all. Okay. I mean, unless you're planning of if you're a foodie and that's the purpose of your event, that's your why, then obviously it is. But in most cases, unless the food is just absolutely terrible, people aren't going to remember what they ate at your conference. So don't get hung up on those details. Focus on the details that are going to make that impact of your why. Because I used to spend way too much time trying to pick menus because it all sounded so good. Understand who your audience is and what they're going to enjoy, right? If you're having a conference for vegetarians, please don't serve steak, obviously, right? That seems like a no-brainer. But so cater to your audience in that way, but don't get caught up in those minutia details that far. You're spending hours agonizing over your menu. Somebody's not going to like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the bottom line, somebody's not going to like what you picked and somebody else is going to love it.
Yeah.
So agonize over the things that really matter to move your why forward, that people are going to go home and 6 months later, they're going to be like, wow, that speaker just really blew my mind with that. I implemented this from that conference and it has changed my life. Yeah. Those are the things to focus on. Don't get caught up in the minutia that no one's going to remember in 6 months that you ran out of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that moment, they're probably annoyed, but 6 months from now, they're not going to remember that.
Has there been an event that you've done where you thought, oh my gosh, this has been like the worst experience ever? Has there been one of those? You don't have to say who it was or what happened, but just.
I have been, there's, no matter how hard you plan, no matter what you do, there's always going to be something that goes wrong, right? Yeah. And I always look at those as learning opportunities. And so you can do better the next time, because then something else will go wrong. I've been very blessed to work with some amazing organizations and some amazing events. And I really don't have an event that I was just like, oh my God, that was just the worst thing. I think the hardest event that I ever had to do, I had an event scheduled for 9/13/2001. And all of my speakers were flying in. Except, of course, we all know that they didn't. Yes. And so it was a very difficult situation. It was for physicians, so they can't just reschedule for the next week or the next month or whatever. And it was, what do we do? And we pulled off what ended up being one of our most successful events. We totally had to pivot, and we had to have people bring their case studies of interesting cases they had done. This was for a group of urologists, so it was always fun with them. Just don't walk in when they're doing their presentations. That's the only piece of advice for you on that one. But they were amazing people, and we ended up having people. We had our highest rate of on-site registrations because people that were supposed to be traveling weren't traveling. Yeah. So the lesson in all of that, because we were afraid it was going to be a disaster and that we were going to have to issue refunds and so forth. And the lesson in all of that was just be prepared to pivot. Yeah. Be prepared for the unexpected. But I really have not ever had an event that burned to the ground or was just an utter total disaster. But I have some wild stories.
I'll bet. I'll bet. We may have to save that one for another episode. Like,
we'll want to do that one after dark.
Right? I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I wanted to pivot for just a second, and then we'll, close, in the episode. But I wanted to, because one of the things, I love to ask people is about, their decluttering challenge, or if they getting organized or a system, or what have you, that I can help them with. So is there any, burning question or something that perhaps I can help you with on while we're chatting?
Yeah, I'm a keeper of things, right? I'm borderline hoarder. That's just I'll be real. You can see behind me. I know your guests can't see behind me, but I have a hard time letting go of things that have sentimental value. So, how do you guide people in determining what they should let go of and how to let go of that SpongeBob mug that my niece and nephew gave me for Christmas, almost 20 years ago? How do you guide people through that process?
Okay, so that it's a great question, and it's one that is probably one of my biggest challenges, because I am one that, I can't remember, if I had mentioned it to everyone on the networking event, but I am one that, I'm one of my own clients. And the reason I had even launched my organizing business in the first place was because that's my challenge. I'm like an organized pack rat. I love to hold on to stuff. So I'm very organized, but had a lot of clutter. But as far as sentimental things, I would say that number one, remember that it's not in the stuff, it's not in the item,
Right.
like it's not in the mug, it's not in the, that's you remember those people, in your heart. And sometimes I know, we want to hold on to something because, oh, it invokes, certain emotions and memories and things like that. Now, I will say for me personally, when I help others in that process, I always advise to, which is something that I do for myself. I have one container where I have items of memory. And it's so tempting to keep all of them, but it's not advisable. So find one, that perhaps maybe evokes maybe the most emotion or the most favorable memory, um, and hold on to that one. I never take my clients through a process where they have to get rid of everything. Um, but you can't hold on to everything either,
Right.
because one of the things that I always, I think about is the fact that, um, my husband and I we don't have any children, but those who have children, or even, if you're, let's just say, when you leave this earth, what do you really want to leave all of that stuff for them to make those kind of decisions about you? You know what I mean?
Ooh,
Um,
yeah.
now when we're gone, we're not thinking about that, but now is the time to think about that, because so many of us have I know, for me, have lost loved ones, and they just left so much stuff for people to go through, and that's a burden.
Yeah.
You're left to make decisions for that person when, it would have been better if we had made that decision together, that type of thing. So I would say, a memory box or memory, mine is like the size of an office box.
Okay.
Nothing, once that box is full, I'll either have to purge, and get rid of some stuff if I want to add something else, because I've had to do that where I had like several things. It's like, really, I, you know, so, but it's one of the biggest challenges that people have because they want to hold on to those things. I
Yeah.
used to keep a lot of Christmas cards, birthday cards. Now I only keep the cards, and I don't get a lot of cards, but I only keep those that something that I get from my husband. That's it, you know. Um, but a container, maybe a pretty box or something, don't let it, once it starts to overflow, don't let it go beyond that, that if you have to go to the store and get another box, it's too much. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
if
saying.
the lid won't go
If the
on, it's
lid
that
won't go down,
I got you.
that's too much. That's too much. And then so that think about, you know, um, when you leave this earth, do you really want someone else to have to go through that, type of thing? Think about those things. And then just really try to, if it's just one thing that you can keep, from that person, then just keep that. So that would be the three things that I would suggest, in going through, and just purge often as you can.
Yeah.
um if like, think about when you get ready to move, if let's just say you plan to move. I don't know about you, but it's like when I look around and it's like I'm seeing all this stuff, I don't want to. At
Yeah.
65, look, at 65 years old, I'm thinking, you know, it's
No, I
just
hear
I'm
you.
too old for that,
Yeah.
So yeah, so is that kind of helpful?
That is extremely helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah.
I might have to have 2 boxes, but I won't go beyond 2 boxes.
Don't go beyond. Make that your minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, make
Yeah.
that the maximum. Don't
I
go
like
over.
minimum. I liked minimum, 2 box minimum. I'm good with it.
Yeah, but
No,
yeah,
I think the 2 boxes is more than enough. And
yeah,
yeah, I think that's a good maximum to have.
yeah. I think, and the other thing that people have a lot of trouble with is paper, holding on to paper. A lot of
Oh yeah.
um, yeah, and but I also think what's happening is that people start to get rid of the paper, but then it turns into those digital documents, and they're
Oh,
overwhelmed with that.
yeah. Yeah, organizing your digital files is
Yeah.
important so that you can find those important memories and you can find your important documents. If anybody looked at the number of folders on my Google Drive, you'd probably feel overwhelmed. But when you stop and look at it, it's all so well organized that I can easily find what I'm looking for. Same in my email, like it's all folders and all those things. You have to organize the digital part of your life as much as you
Yes.
organize the physical part of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, you transfer that whole thing to your sentimental items, that way of thinking, as well. But you'll typically know, what's in there. But then over time, like some things, I know for me, it has happened, like I said, I've gone through and it's like, I don't feel the need to still hold on to that,
Yeah.
so yeah. So from time to time, do that. You can even put like an expiration date in terms of, this is one tip that I've heard. I can't remember the lady's name right now, but she helps people with their organizing. Is that in the memory box? What she does, she suggests you having one document in there that tells everyone what to do should you leave before them.
Oh,
I
that's
think
smart.
that's I think that is a great tip.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. And so yeah, so I think you have like a little list, even if it means, give this to so and so and so and so, throw this away, that type of thing. I think that's probably a better tip than what I've given you. So
They're all good tips. I love all of that, and I
yeah.
definitely need to be doing some application of those tips.
Yeah. So any parting thoughts for the listeners in terms of events, business, anything that you want to share, you know.
Um, I'll leave your listeners with this. It's been a pleasure to be here today, and I hope that this has been helpful for them. My tip is do it terrified, but you don't have to do it alone. If you
Oh,
need help with your events, you need help figuring out, should I even be in the event space, right? Should I even be adding events to my business? Reach out and let's have a conversation about that. But do it terrified.
yeah, yeah. Now, do you have like a cheat sheet or something um, for the listeners, or something that like like a little cheat sheet or something that you've created or anything like that? Haven't done that one yet, or what?
I'm going to be putting together a checklist
Okay,
of the
checklist.
things,
Yeah,
kind of a timeline of when you should be doing XYZ for your events. And
awesome,
so that will be available. Hopefully, once I get my workshop up and going, that'll be one of the things that's available. So
awesome,
that
awesome.
is in progress
That's
for sure.
in progress. Yes, yes. I'm glad. I'm glad. That's going to be so helpful for so many people. And so with that, just letting everyone know that listens to the podcast that all of Heather's contact information will be in the show notes. Make sure that you reach out to her. This was such a powerful, powerful show, and I have just absolutely loved interviewing you, Heather, on the show today. We have got to do this again.
Yes, please. This has been so much fun. I've loved this. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm going to apply the tips that you gave me. And I do hope that your listeners will reach out, even if it's just to have a short 30-minute conversation that's complimentary, just to run some questions by me about their events. I'm here for
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for joining me on the Organizedpreneur Show. I hope that you have enjoyed all the information that was shared today. Make sure, again, that you reach out to Heather if you need any assistance in terms of organizing your event. And if you've enjoyed the show, make sure that you click subscribe, listen, do all those things that you do for those podcasts, and share it with others. Don't be stingy. Share it with others. And so that is all we have today from the Organizedpreneur Show. And we will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining and subscribing to the podcast. Simply go to organizedpreneurpodcast.com. And also check out the freebies available, including a free training at theorganizedpreneur.com. So you ready? Let's go.